I have our next live guest, Imam Jamal Rahman, with us here. He's joining us from Seattle. He is a Muslim scholar, community leader, as well as an interfaith activist. He will help us today, hopefully, put in context the Islamic teachings as expressed in the works of Rumi and Shams, and perhaps some of the contradictions that we see between those teachings and some of the realities of our life. But before that, Imam Jamal, I would like to show a video sequence, but here's an opportunity for you to greet our viewers.
Yes, I'm delighted to be here. And Parisa, if I may also add, I'm also 1/3 of the Interfaith Amigos. I work with a pastor, a Christian pastor, and a rabbi. And we are called the Interfaith Amigos.
Yes, beautiful. Fits right into what Rumi was up to. In one of the sequences that we watched earlier before you got on the program, one of our guests, Esin Chalabi, talked about when Rumi passed away. You know, it got so crowded. Muslims, Christians, Jews, yes, everybody showed up to his funeral. And some people started saying, look, Rumi was a Muslim scholar, so why don't you Christians and Jewish people just go away, let us do our little prayer? And they said, no way, we're not going to leave, because we learned about our Moses from Mevlana, and we learned about our Jesus from Mevlana. So that there is that universality, and I'm so delighted to have a guest like yourself who is an embodiment of living that in the crossroads of that unity.
You see, we always say there's no such thing as a Jewish silence or Muslim silence. It's all silence. Similarly with the soul, it's just one soul, universal soul.
Why do we go to look at the Grand Canyon? Why do we look at the Brooks Range? Why do we go to Tibet? You know, it's all longing. The whole impulse to move out, to go out, is one of the great human activities, isn't it? And that surely has a lot of longing in it, as does creation of art and the creation of anything, really.
Today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down a musical instrument. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground, would you like to have revealed to you the truth of the friend? Leave the rind and descend into the pith. Fold within fold, the beloved drowns in his own being. This world is drenched in that drowning. I am so small, I can barely be seen. How can this great love be inside me? Look at your eyes. They are small, but they see enormous things. Pale sunlight, pale the wall. Love moves away. The light changes. I need more grace than I thought.
So there can be an Islamic Rumi, and there is, of course, and there can be a Christian Rumi, and there's all different faiths. There can be a Buddhist Rumi too, and there can be an all religion Rumi. I think it's okay now to say that you're all religions, that you're no religion, that you're all of them. When you are with everyone but me, you're with no one. When you are with no one but me, you're with everyone. Instead of being so bound up with everyone, be everyone. When you become that many, you are nothing, empty. So that's what I love about the work with Rumi, is that something is just happening. I just got to get out of the way, you know. And when I work on the poem and it's really going well, I do finish the 30 minutes and then I just bow. Something in me wants to bow. Like, thank you, you know.
One night, a man was crying, Allah, Allah, Allah, Allah, Allah. His lips grew sweet with the praising, until a cynic said, "So, I have heard you calling out, but have you ever gotten any response?" The man had no answer for that. He quit praying and fell into a confused sleep where he dreamed he saw Hitter, the guide of souls, in a thick green foliage. Why did you stop praising? Why did you stop praising? Because I never heard anything back. This longing you express is the return message, the grief you cry out from. Draws you toward union, your pure sadness that wants help, your pure sadness that wants help, is the secret cup. Listen to the moan of a dog for its master. That whining is the connection. That whining is the connection. are love dogs no one knows the names of. There are love dogs no one knows the names of. Give your life to be one of them. One night a man was crying. One night a woman was crying. La, la, la, la, la, la, la, ilaha, illallah, la, ilaha, illallah, la, ilaha, illallah, la, ilaha, illallah, la, ilaha, illallah, la, ilaha, illallah, ilaha, illallah, ilaha, illallah, ilaha, illallah, ilaha, illallah.
I never have much to say after watching this video sequence.
Silence is best.
I know. That is why I'm actually going to read two comments from our viewers, dear Jamal, which I think kind of speak to the heart of some of our questions and concerns.
Yes.
So here's one from Hamza Asif from Islamabad, Pakistan. I am a follower of Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi. I consider him my master. This world is full of hatred, but my master had taught about love. I believe in him. I believe that this world is on its way to self-destruction, and there is only one way, that which is love, and Rumi teaches love. So I believe in him. I am in love with love. That's one comment. Yes, I hear you, Hamza, about that feeling, the world moving toward self-destruction. The second one is from Shahika. She's writing to us from Ankara, Turkey. Hello, dear lovers of love, lovers of God. I am Shahika. Know that the hearts of lovers are connected. No matter how far we are, we will rise up for love, for peace, for unity. Let's work together to make this world a better place for everyone. No more wars, no more children dying, no more human soul for sale. I hope this message reaches your hearts. How can we reconcile the contradiction between these jewels of wisdom, all talking about love, tolerance, oneness, and then this division, bloodshed, animosity, and simple inhumanity that we see going on around us within the Muslim and the non-Muslim world? I'm not making a distinction there. Can you enlighten us on that a little bit?
Sure. There's several reasons. One is we might be talking about spirituality, which is at the heart of every religion, oneness, unconditional love, compassion. Or we could be talking about the institution of religion, which over time gets to become a little bit corrupted. Institution of religion begins to focus not so much on what we have talked about, the heart. It focuses on recruitment and fundraising. And that becomes a problem. There's a wonderful joke in the Abrahamic traditions that God comes down and reveals certain basic truths to some people, but then the devil comes along and says, let me organize that for you. And that becomes religion. See, the other reason is that we are sometimes using religion as a cover, as a disguise, the root of which is really not so much religion, but a fight over money and power. Rumi says, you know, we are probably searching among the leaves and branches for what appears at the roots. The roots could be a fight over access to oil revenues or to geopolitical advantage. So these are the two reasons you can see a contradiction. Of course, there are extremists everywhere. Again, like Rumi says, you know, a bee and a wasp, they drink from the same flower. One produces a sting, one produces nectar. It depends on our consciousness and our intentions.
Thank you. So how do we, as just ordinary citizens brought up in different traditions, it doesn't matter what our religion or non-religion, how can I tell the bee from the wasp? metaphorically speaking.
We have to ask ourselves, what is religion for? If religion is just to recruit more people or to raise more money, it goes into one particular area. It's a branding. Or are we going to use religion to really become a more developed, more complete human being? In Islam, it's called insan Camille, so that, as the Quran says, we can bring a heart turned in devotion to God. It depends how we use religion.
And then that, of course, brings up self-work, spiritual work, religious work, discipline. I mean, is just one moment of spiritual awakening enough to put us on the right path? Or do we have to engage in specific practices in order to cultivate the qualities that would help us distinguish the wasp from the bee?
See, but even before that, Parisa, Rumi says that actually we are all seekers, but we don't step on the path of seeking because there are two veils that come in the way. The veil of health and the veil of wealth. When my health is good, those are my loved ones, or when there is wealth, not just money, but emotional security. All this talk about transforming the ego, opening up the heart, being of service is not only irrelevant, it's very inconvenient, but invariably, one of these veils will shatter. Death of parents, divorce, loss of wealth. Then suddenly, deeper questions. Like Hafiz says, something missing in my heart tonight has made my eyes so soft, my voice so tender, my need for God absolutely clear. That's when we actually step on the path because of circumstances. That's when we actually start the work. We become motivated to become a better human being. We are motivated to find more meaning in life. Unfortunately, because we're unmindful, it requires those circumstances.
As if crisis, in a way, is sort of that bell that wakes us up, or the strike that breaks us open, so
Yes.
that we can seek something. And we are in a lot of crisis. I mean, I can imagine that people definitely are going through personal life crisis, but also as a global community of human beings, we are in the midst of a crisis. I don't know, maybe because of social media, we are more aware of it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that children are dying. It doesn't take away from the fact that there is injustice in the very societies that we live in, right? So what is our responsibility as individuals who at least have a desire to be on a path to with what we see going on around us in our society?
You see, we might, for example, say that, God, who is all aware, all powerful, all compassionate, why is God not doing something about all of this, all this cruelty, oppression, this terrible suffering and pain everywhere? So again, there's a story in all the traditions that, there's a pious human being who travels the world and sees so much of this pain and anguish and suffering, and finally sees this orphan child in the winter covered with sores, dying of starvation, breaks down, gets on the knees and says, God, please do something, please do something. And that night, God appears in a dream and says, beloved one, I did do something. I created you. What am I doing about that? Sooner or later, that will strike home in our lives, that we can make a difference. We are motivated.
Yes, and correct me if I'm wrong or I've misunderstood the Quran here, but when you read the Quran, you realize that every time that there is a definition of some kind of a spiritually achieved being, or the mu'min or the believer, immediately after that, there is something that has to do with action. If it's either taking care of the orphan, or given to charity, or helping people who are who have to migrate, refugees, etc. So what is the relationship between Islam and social activism?
You see, every time in the Quran, there's a verse on prayer, it's followed by a verse on righteous deeds. And the word righteous deeds appears again and again and again. It is not your gender. It is not your religion that will take you to heaven, says the Quran. It is having faith in God, but mostly, and I say mostly because this is repeated again and again, is mostly doing righteous deeds that takes you to heaven. In fact, it is said that some of the last words of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was Prophet Muhammad said, "Do ye righteous deeds that will please your sustainer." We might make money, we might have wonderful plans, we have palaces, but at the moment of your death, the great sages, including Rumi, says they'll have to be left behind at the palace. Your friends and family can go only as far as your gravesite. But beyond that, what takes you is your righteous deeds.
Thank you very much for that. I actually have a video sequence I like to share with everyone. We shot this video of a very simple, humble man in Turkey. He makes reed flutes for a living, and he has such a simple and intimate way of integrating his spirituality and his occupation, the way he makes his living.
Genelde aranıldığında yüzlerce, binlerce kamışın içerisinde klasik anlamda yani dört dörtlük açıklığa gelen bir neylik bir kamış maalesef binlercesinin içinden 2-3 tane ancak bulunabilmekte. Tabii bunun her bir boğumun açılması neyin seslerinin doğru şekilde verilmesiyle çok ilintilidir. Gerekirse işte neyin örneğin neylik kamışın çapının kalın olması ya da ince olması, boğumlarının daha kısa ya da uzun olması, bunların hepsi ney yapımında sesi ve ney yapımının etkileyen faktörlerdir. Neyi içine açtıktan sonra akortlanması kısmına geliyoruz. Zaten ney de yani Mesnevi'de de öyle geçiyor. Hani olgun insanı kamile benzetiliyor ya. İçi boş, işte benzi sararmış. İşte kamışlıktan yani yurdundan koparılmış. Yani ruhlar aleminden gelmiş bu tarafa. Ve sürekli işte vatanım diye inliyor. Ney yapımında kamış size bir kez akort yapma fırsatı tanır. O da ya doğru ya da yanlış olarak. Neyin üzerine açılan delikler de insanın başındaki var olan işte göz, burun, ağız, kulaklar gibi deliklerle eşdeğer olarak yine karşılaştırılır ve onları temsil ettiği düşünülür. Nasıl ki insan ruha muhtaç, o da neyzenin nefesine muhtaç. Ama sadece şunu söyleyebilirim, örneğin bir tek sesi bile saatlerce tek bir sesi üflemek. Benim için belki yani eser geçmek, uzun ney çalmak değil yani. Sadece bir tek ses üflemek benim için çok daha anlamlı. Ve o esnada ben gerçekten işte neyle belki bütünleşiyorum diyebilirim. Yani neyzenlik belki bu ama
Okay, we're back. Imam Jamal,
Yes.
tell me please, what do you think about that one single note, the notion of non-distraction?
You know, by the way, that when you that video of that one note reminded me of this Rumi poem when he says, "What is praised is one." So the praise is also one. You know, all these religions, all this singing, it's really one song, and the
Yes.
differences are just illusion and vanity. That
Yes.
really flashes in my heart.
Oh yes, yes.
Yes.
Coleman Marx's translation. So
Yes.
obviously,
So,
yes.
so for me, that one note is, for me in my work in Interfaith Community Sanctuary, as a member of the Interfaith Amigos, is how do I go beyond polarization? How do I
Yes.
really embrace diversity? Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, that is that one note that I'm really working on with my colleagues here. I can tell you more about it if you want me to.
Yes. So let's get polarized. Get that. Sometimes it's very difficult in the sense that you find yourself in a state of aversion from a certain statement, certain way of being, certain way of acting in the world, and a craving for something else. So is that polarization? Is that what you mean by it?
Yeah, polarization would be that, for example, there's such differences in our opinions, there's such a wide gap, and there is very little connection. So as the Quran says, for example, that God has created diversity, this is a world of opposites. There's bound to be this opposites, yet we are connected. And the best way to connect with someone with whom I disagree, whether it's in religion, or whether it's in politics, or whether it's in culture, the Quran suggests, and this has become like a mantra in the world of interfaith, can I come to know the other on a human level? See, the Quran has another very tongue-in-cheek verse. The Quran says, we have created some of you to be a trial for others. It was not meant to be easy.
Yes.
So the work is, can I share metaphorically 3 cups of tea? Listen, respect, connect. Even though we have differences, the work is not to change your mind. The work is, can I connect on a human level? Then, no matter what the difference is, it now no longer looms as a threat. And then we have the space where we can really collaborate on issues which are dear to both of us, social justice issues and earth care.
Oh yes, and we actually have a video sequence with Pirzia Inayat Khan, who takes the whole issue of respecting and protecting the environment and puts and looks at it through the lens of the Sufi path.
I believe the greatest danger that we face today is the degradation of the ecosystem upon which our life depends. The life systems that sustain all of us are unraveling. Species are dying at an unimaginable pace, and it is not an accident. It is the consequence of our way of life. So we are at a crossroads, a moment of decision. And Maulana Rumi says something in the Masnavi which is very important for us all to hear and understand. When he says, earth, water, fire, and air are God's servants. To us they seem lifeless, but to God, living. Rumi's vision was the vision of an animate earth, which everything is alive. The stones, the trees, the rivers, the clouds, all living, all connected, all bestowing life upon each other. If we are to survive as a species, we must take this message to heart. We must live upon the living earth. Bear witness that the earth is an angel. We do not merely occupy a rock in space, but we live out our lives as a cell in a great body. The whole of this body is sacred. Its anatomy, its physiology, its living systems are a whole. And it begins our honoring, our reverencing, and our serving this whole begins with witnessing the life in every particle of it.
What does Islam have to say about protecting the environment?
In fact, a lot of things Islam says. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said, the earth is like your mother. Protect, honor her. And the Quran has many verses. In fact, over 700 verses that honors nature. There's one verse in particular which is really significant. The Quranic verse says that the creation of the heavens and the earth is a greater matter than the creation of humanity, but man understands not. And we are asked to become, as we are vice representatives, vice regents of God, to really take care of Mother Earth. You know, there's a wonderful insight I learned from this very wonderful scientist, White House advisor to President Carter, who made a very Sufi statement. He said, you know, for 30 years, I thought the biggest environmental problems were loss of biodiversity, climate change, and ecosystem collapse. And that with 30 years of good science, we could take care of it. He said, I've realized the biggest environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And scientists cannot take care of it. You see, we need Sufism, we need spiritual practices to overcome these selfishness, greed, and apathy. It's a spiritual issue, essentially. Of course, we must take outer action, but the inner action is very critical, which is also why in Islam they say, you know, that in fact, Pir Zia's grandfather, he would say, a very holy manuscript is nature. You can learn everything from nature. Rumi says, for example, he learned about unconditional love by watching a blade of grass. A grass agrees to die and rise up again, so you can receive a little of the animal's enthusiasm. Just goes on and on. Just one more about, you know, I work with interfaith diversity. Rumi says, you know, the branches of a tree are swaying differently in the wind, but they're all connected at the roots. So nature has so much to teach. You know, when we have problems with exclusivity, in Sufi teaching, they say, meditate on this metaphor. All the rivers flow into the ocean. Jamal, you may be following one river, but please do not mistake the river for the ocean. Nature can teach us so much.
Yes, I'm reminded of a mentor of mine who said, you know, make sure that you do not cross the line from righteousness to self-righteousness. And I think
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about there. And so what about, I mean, look at what's happening nationwide in America. I know that we have viewers from all over the world, but with respect for women, right? Finally, certain things are surfacing and we're realizing this disrespect of women is not only a problem with the Islamic third world countries, as the mainstream media in the West has tried to portray, but it is right here in our most so-called progressive circles. So what does Islam or the Sufi path have to offer us about that issue of respecting women?
You know, but I have to, as a Muslim, acknowledge we do have a problem in Islam about the unequal status of women. Of course, it varies in different countries, but this is very ironic because in the 7th century, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Quran gave women property rights, divorce rights, inheritance rights. So what is the problem? They went along with the Prophet Muhammad as long as he was alive, but the moment the Prophet Muhammad died and Islam spread to feudal societies, all those verses in the Quran that were in favor of women were turned in favor of men, actually. So the women say the Quran is never the problem. The Prophet Muhammad is, of course, never the problem. The problem is the patriarchy of men. So in our house of worship, we say the best way to overcome this is, let's ask the women, what can we do? So the Muslim women have told us several things. They said, yes, please listen. So we listened, the men listened. They said, please create the space for us so we can talk about our pain, our anguish, our suffering, without fear of retribution. And we also want to listen to the pain and anguish of men. That's one thing. Number two, they said, please begin to address God as often in the feminine pronoun as in the male pronoun. And yes, we have heard all those reasons that in Arabic there is no neuter, there is no it, but please start addressing God as she. And the third thing is, let's overcome these outdated customs that don't serve the common good. Why cannot women do the Friday khutbah? Why cannot the women lead prayers?
I know so many women who are so much more qualified. I mean, I remember a personal story. When I came to America, I kind of missed being in the circle of maybe some other Muslims. I wanted to go and say prayers together. It's not something that I do often in a group, but I thought, hey, in America, let's go and experience it. And honest to God, I mean, when the guy, this imam, started talking, I just wanted to run out of that mosque. And truth be told, I have never been back, because the woman sitting next to me is a lot wiser and has a lot more to offer to the conversation than this so-called imam sitting up.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that. In our house of worship, an interfaith community sanctuary in Seattle, in Friday, most of the khutbahs are done by women. And whenever possible, in fact, the majority of times, women lead the prayers. And slowly, little by little, the men are changing, realizing there's nothing in the Quran that goes against this. This is totally in conformity with Islam.
I want to show the last video sequence with Llewellyn Bonley, who is also a Sufi teacher here in California. And he refers to the internet as the web of consciousness. And with what's happening with our the freedom of internet and its availability for everybody in an equal way is now threatened in a fundamental way, I think this is a very relevant video. Let's watch that and we will come back for some final thoughts.
The greatest gift humanity has is the gift of consciousness. Traditionally, this is the fire that is stolen from the gods. And the internet is a tool we have been given to help us to live this consciousness of oneness. Because the internet gives us the ability to access, in a way, the whole from wherever we are. And it is really a tool so the everyman, the ordinary person, can have access to this field of oneness, of human knowledge, and also interrelate to anybody else, anywhere else in the world. You know, there are internet cafes in villages in Tajikistan and in Tibet, wherever you go, you can access it. Consciousness is communicating on a plane of oneness in a way that it's never had access to before. And when you have a website and people come together, and if you have like a spiritual website, then it has maybe a little bit of spark of spiritual consciousness in it. And then people, all these little bits of light are being drawn together to participate in something that has a spiritual spark in it. And it is, in a way, a certain web of oneness within humanity getting woken up. When Rumi met Shams, Shams did not answer Rumi's theological questions, which he must have had as a theology professor. Shams awoke in Rumi an awareness of something beyond any division, beyond any question. Because Shams did not tell anything to Rumi that Rumi didn't already know. It was latent within him until Shams woke him up to it. So it's not like somebody teaching something to somebody. It's like Sufis don't teach, because they just uncover what is latent within us. The fire burns away the dross that covers the secret of unity within us. In a way, the beauty is that by putting this on the internet, if you're going to translate it to all these different languages, you are making that secret much more well-known, much more accessible. There is this secret. It happened when these two men met. And this secret was not special to them, but belongs to humanity, which is why Rumi speaks to all of us.
Yes, as you all know, basically, if the free internet is threatened, programming like this would go away. I, as a humble producer, could not afford to pay for a fast internet connection to have this live feed and stream videos, etc. And I love it. I love the way that Llewellyn Bonley speaks of the internet as this web of consciousness. It truly, as we are experiencing right here in this room, enables us to connect a global community of awakened hearts and to help each other in our journeys. Jamal, do you have any thoughts on either the internet, the web of consciousness, or the idea or the possibility of creating an international community of spiritual, not only seekers, but activists, grounded?
Absolutely. Yes. You know, the Quran says that, well, the most used word in the Quran is Allah, but the second most used word is ilm, that knowledge which can lead to wisdom and higher awareness. So through the internet, so much of information can lead to knowledge and wisdom and higher awareness. Then the Quran says, you know, that God has deliberately created diversity so you might come to know the other. And through the internet, we really get to connect with the other. Then Rumi says that true community, true friendship is not based on outer similarities, but on inner similarities. You know, we can move beyond our tribal affiliations, beyond our just race and culture, and really connect through kinship of spirit, meaning we might have a common cause that serves the common good. And through the internet, the flow of information, through the connection, we can really create, through this web, a beautiful, viable, what Rumi calls circle of love. Come out of the circle of time and enter the circle of love that is focused on righteous deeds that can create shifts in this world.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Imam Jamal, it's been a pleasure to have you on this program. I know that there's so much that I want to talk to you about. Maybe in the future we will have the opportunity to continue this conversation.
Thank you.
If you have any final thoughts, prayers, blessings, please share that with us before we say bye to you.
Well, you know, in Islam we say the character of a wali means friend of God, is based on nothing more than graciousness and generosity. Thank you for your graciousness and generosity, Parisa. You've been a friend of God, and this program is just beautiful. Thank you. May it continue and flourish.
Thank you so much, inshallah. And to my dear viewers, thank you so much for staying with us. I am Parisa Soultani, your host for One Through Love. Until next time, stay with love. Blessings.